Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Oh my goodness. Okay. Hopefully got that. Either way, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be talking about the fighters on UFC 296 that really need a win. Need it so badly. Or they need to prove that they belong in this division. And going over the card and looking at it before I'm getting on here and talking to you guys about it, I noticed there is so many of those fights or fighters. There's a couple fights that both fighters really need to prove that they belong in this UFC, on this card, on this roster. Again, we've seen fighters go on big losing streaks and then get a win and then get released. Augusto Sakai. There's another person who's on a losing streak. Oh, Tyson Nam, I believe, was... I don't think he lost 2 in a row, but he lost his last one in a controversial split decision. He probably won it, and I didn't pick him to win breaking down the fight. Tyson Nam loses, and he gets released, which I still miss Tyson Nam. Big power in that division, fun fighter, 40 years old. It's just, you couldn't really ask for him to have a better career in the UFC. I know you look at it, his record may not have been great, but... always good fights, always fun. And when he was able to finish people, they were big finishes. O'Day Osborne, was a big one. So, again, either way, without my Tyson Nam remarks, we got some fighters to talk about. And I think it's a pretty interesting one. First one, personally, for me, is kind of the first fight of the night. Randy Brown versus Muslim Salikov, and they're both in that discussion. Randy Brown is 17-5, 4-1 in his last 5 fights, but he's 11-5 in the UFC. And maybe you could look at that and be like, that's not that bad. And really, it's not. It's not. 7 years, 16 fights, 11-5 is pretty dang good. He has been finished 4 out of 5 of those losses. And the problem is every time he hits that next step, he gets absolutely destroyed. Beats Brian Barberena, finishes Warley Alves, gets destroyed by Vicente Luque. Beats Alex Oliveira, Jared Gooden, Chaos Williams, Trinaldo, fights Jack Della Maddalena, gets destroyed. Fights willing to determine, who's not great, but willing to determine arguably won that fight. Now he's fighting in a guy like Muslim Salikov, who is 39 years old. Again, 19-4, but he's born in 1984. He's been finished 3 times in his career, 6-3 in the UFC. And again, it's a little bit of a weird one because, he defeats a Melvin Guillard to get into the UFC. Fights Alex Garcia, his debut, gets finished in that one. Goes on a pretty good win streak, beating Ricky Rainey, Nordine Taleb, Laureano Starlopoli, Dos Santos, Francisco Trinaldo. So some really good wins. Then he gets beat up pretty good against the Leech. Finishes Andre Filio, but his chin is just not what it used to be. And then loses to Nicholas Dalby in a very, very unsatisfying fight. So maybe more Muslim Salikov definitely has something to prove that he still belongs at 39 years old to be on a roster, a UFC roster, or fighting in general. But you can't, this is why you can't look at just stats. You can't look and be like, oh, Randy Brown, he's 11-5 in the UFC, he must be pretty good. Yeah, okay, cool, but it's kind of like the Neil Magny effect. You can have a lot of these wins, but when you reach that next caliber of fighters, you fail every single time. I'm glad you can beat these lower guys, but we can never push you. Oh, you're winning these lower fights. Okay, cool, but we've pushed you, 4 times, and you've been finished all 4 of them. So it's a little bit of a tough spot with Randy Brown. I believe he's 32. I believe he's born in 91. Oh, he's born in 90, so he's 33. He's right on that brink, and again, that's why he's on this list. He's right on that brink of, if you're going to make a splash, you need to go out there and you need to put it to Muslim Salikov. Now, if you don't finish him, okay, but if you beat the crap out of him and Muslim shows how tough he is and you still beat him and all that things, fine. I'll take a dominant thing as long as you look good consistently. Not you're slowing down, oh, Muslim might be coming back, and then you get the decision win. There needs to be a decisive next move for both of these fighters? I don't want to keep wondering, okay, he's 12-5, but how good actually is he? He needs to show out and show us if he belongs to be on this in this division. Next one's Andre Fili. I love Andre Touchy Fili. I love that nickname. It's freaking awesome. 33 years old, 10-9-1 in the UFC, 20 fights, and he's won 10 of them. He's been finished 4 out of his 9 losses. 4 times he's been finished. 5 finishes overall in his career he's been finished. So it's another weird one because he beat Bill Algeo and he looked pretty dang good. Fought Nathaniel Wood, where I thought Nathaniel Wood's movement and his in and out, how he fights, would give Fili a lot of problems. And Fili fought a lot better than I thought he was going to. I got to be honest. But the reality is, at 33 years old, 1-3 in his last 4 fights is not a good look. Got absolutely destroyed by Joe Anderson Brito, who's very quick in the first couple minutes for the first round or so. Destroyed Daniel Pineda, and Pineda was saved by an eye poke. And then he fought Bryce Mitchell, and Bryce Mitchell grappling what he does. He's 2-4-5. He's 2-5-1 in his last 8 fights. Hasn't had a 2-fight winning streak since 2019. And it's him coming into the UFC at 12-1 or 11-1. Getting a knockout win, fighting Max Holloway, looking good early in that fight. Win 1, loss 1, win 1, loss 1, win 1, loss 1, win 1, loss 1, win 2, lose to Michael Johnson, win 2, lose 1 to Sadiq Yusuf, win 1, lose 1, and then almost won 1, and then lost 1, and then beat Bill Algeo and Nathaniel Wood. I just noticed the Shane Shapiro was a grappling match. But again, the point is at 33 years old, 10-9-1 in the UFC, you have to put a run together, because you can't be the guy that is going to win one, be exciting matchups. The UFC at this point in the organization, they're just not going to be able to keep you unless you are on these convincing win streaks. Now, again, at 33 years old, your time as in your prime athlete is winding down. I love Andre Fili, but he needs an absolute showcase, and he's fighting a guy like Lucas Almeida, who is going to be there in trading with him. This is a perfect matchup to start that winning streak. I don't know if he wins it. I picked Lucas Almeida. I think that style of Lucas actually benefits him a little bit more, but Andre Fili needs desperately to get a win streak going. Next is Alonzo Metafield. Alonzo Metafield's 36 years old, 3 fights in a row, so he's looked real good in his last couple fights. He has 13 finishes out of 14 fights, 7-3-1 in his UFC career. So that's what, out of 11 fights, he's won 7 of them. It's pretty dang impressive. He's been finished 1 time by OSP in a fight that was boring up until OSP caught him with that check left hook, And he's a guy that was having a hard time just going, Losing to Devin Clark is never a good look. I mean, Devin Clark is absolute trash, so it's another one. He exposed Askar Mavzarov, who fluked his way right into the UFC somehow. Beat Misha Serkinov, which he should have. Beat Jimmy Crute back when we thought Jimmy Crute was something. And then he actually got a draw with Jimmy Crute in a fight that was wild. And then actually beat Crute by a guillotine choke. But the point is, at 36 years old, 3 wins in a row, you got to beat Dustin Jacoby. And I'm sorry, but you have to knock him out. You can't be in there, point fighting a kickboxer. Dustin Jacoby will pick you apart at that. You got to go in there and you got to knock him out and you got to prove your point. Next is Cody Garbrandt versus Brian Kelleher. It's the same with both of these guys. 13-5 to 24-14. 2-3 again against 2-3. Brian Kelleher is a plus 180 underdog, 37 years old to 32. I know that Cody Garbrandt's only 32 years old, but he is absolutely done. There's no rising back up to the ranks. There's no rising back up to the title. There's none of it, because you beat Brian Kelleher, and then who do you fight next? Who do you fight next? Let's see where Brian Kelleher is. Okay, that doesn't matter. So Cody Garbrandt's ranked number 30th. Okay, he's 29, but it says 30. Either way, 29. Who do you fight next? Douglas Da Silva Andrade? Douglas De Silva Andrade KOs him. Daniel Marcos KOs him. Victor Henry beats him by decision. Javid Basharet beats him. Davey Grant KOs him. Mario Batista, interesting fight. Montel Quick Jackson KOs him. Adrian Yanez KOs him. Kyler Phillips KOs him. Chris Gutierrez KOs him. Said Nurmagomedov KOs him. Davis Figueiredo KOs him. Dominic Cruz decisions him. Ricky Simone beats him. Martinez beats him. The point is, he's done. Absolute done. Now, for Brian Kelleher being 37 years old, 70 overall in the world, which, again, is absolutely wild. I don't think he's that bad. 68. Jesus Christ. They can't keep up with anything. 60 ranked 68. Who do you really fight next? You could do Jose Johnson. That could be a pretty good fight for him. You could do Christian Quinierez, I think his name is. Whatever that last name is. Brian Kelleher is another guy. At 37 years old, you need to go out there. You need to make a statement. You need to be dominant. You need to come out of the fight with no injuries so you can get right back in there. And I'm talking about short notice fights. Quick. You have no time. Get all the fights you can get in and see if you can make an absolute run. Otherwise, Brian Kelleher loses this, you got to think that's it. Same with Cody Garbrandt. He loses it, retire, or, retire, probably. Uriane Aldana is next at 35 years old, being that she fights at 135 as a woman, which, whatever. 7-5 in the UFC doesn't really show how bad she's actually been because she's beat Macy Chiasson, not very good. Yana Santos, who's awful. Caitlin Vieira is a pretty big win for her, to be honest. Beth Correira's not good. Beth Correira was never really that good. She was just, in a bad division, so it made her look a whole lot better than she actually was. So, and again, Uriane Aldana being 35 years old in this weight class where she has a style that sometimes she shows up, sometimes she doesn't show up. This is the fight she absolutely needs to go in there and show out, show more well-rounded skills, show that she's not gun shy. Being 5 in the world and going out there and showing that you're still there and finishing Karol Rosa violently could really, really show the UFC that, okay, I had a mistake with the Amanda Nunes fight. I'm not going to do that anymore. So, interesting to see what she does there, but she absolutely is on this list. Next is Josh Emmett. Josh Emmett's 18-4, 38 years old. 8 finishes out of 18 wins. He's a decision guy typically, but does have some power in his hands. He is 9-4 in the UFC, 13 fights, 9 wins. Now, this is a weird one because people thought he lost to Calvin Kattar. I actually thought he beat Calvin Kattar. Just the power difference was drastic. So I did think that Josh Emmett beat him. But lost to Ilo Tapora, stood with him the entire time. Didn't get, embarrassed. Lost to Yair Rodriguez, but Yair still has questions about him. I mean, his chin isn't great to me. He was still dropped by Josh Emmett, so I think people don't realize that. Did lose to Jeremy Stevens, but again, Jeremy has nukes in his hands. So, lost to Des Green back in UFC 210, or Desmond Green. I don't know why he says Des Green, but yeah. So, okay. So, again, beating the power guy that he is, beating Michael Johnson, Mirsad Bektik, which is a big win, both those ones. He was losing to Michael Johnson real bad in the first 2 rounds. Came back and got a win late in that fight. Josh Emmett really needs to go out there and make a statement, which I do think he's going to be a harder fight than people think. Bryce Mitchell is an awful striker. Good grappler when he has him on the ground, but Josh Emmett has some really, really good takedown defense. So I like Josh Emmett, but this is a matchup. At number 6, he has to destroy Bryce Mitchell to make a name and try to get back up and to fight like number 2 or 3, to be honest. Next, obviously, is Tony Ferguson at 25-9. Big losing streak, 6 losses in a row, 39 years old. This was a guy that was number 8 fighter in the world in 2017, number 12 in 15, 16 in 2019. It's one of those things, Tony. He's 15-7. Take the 6 fights losing streak away, he was 15-1. The one loss being against Michael Johnson. He has 20 finishes out of 25 wins. He has been finished 5 out of 9 losses. It's another thing that he's been on this losing streak that, Bobby Green, he dropped him in the first round. Nate Diaz, he was having success with the leg kicks. Very, very short notice. He can't really hold that against him. Michael Chandler, he dropped almost 3 times in that first round. Beneil Dariush wasn't a good loss. Charles Oliveira is not a good loss because he was dominated in those two. Those are the 2 that he was dominated in. But all the other ones, even Gaethje, dropped him in the, 3rd round at the end of the 3rd round or something, or 2nd round, something like that. Dropped him with an uppercut. So, and again, another very short notice fight. Was not supposed to be Justin Gaethje at all. Again, it doesn't take away from the performance of Justin Gaethje, but there is, some asterisks on those fights. That one and the Nate Diaz fight. So, with Tony Ferguson, again, being 39 years old, I like that he's training with David Goggins, a real big mind guy, real big, belief and hard work and all of these things. Tony Ferguson, being where he was, he needs to go out there in the perfect matchup for him for Paddy. Paddy's chin's questionable. Doesn't have very good defense whatsoever. Tony Ferguson absolutely needs to show out in this matchup. Next is the last one is Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. This is a perfect matchup for Wonderboy to show if he's still there. A guy that can grapple if he can get you down, a guy that can strike. You're a great striker, have had issues with grapplers, but Shavkat is not a great wrestler. He doesn't have good double legs or single legs. So again, it's one of those things where this is it or this is not it for Wonderboy Thompson. This is either the fight that's going to show us, okay, he should fight for the title next, or it shows that might be it for Wonderboy. As always, guys, subscribe, like, comment. Let me know if you guys agree. If you disagree, if I missed anything, let me know. And as always, see you guys next time. Peace.